Ukraine has scored a major battlefield win in the east. In Kupiansk, drones from its unit blowing up two of Russia's most prized thermobaric rocket launchers.
The assault began with Russian armor rolling forward confidently, until Ukrainian FPV drones sliced into the column like razors through steel. Tanks erupted, crews scattered, and in seconds, the offensive Russia bragged about turned into a burning graveyard of metal and panic. The Russian column didn't roll forward carefully. It surged like nothing could stop it. A tank punched a thick smokescreen across the tree line, turning the field into a gray tunnel meant to blind every Ukrainian position ahead. Behind it, BMPs and armored carriers pressed in tight formation, engines howling as they pushed straight toward the front. But the moment the smoke settled into the grass, Ukraine's first line of defense woke up. FPV drones rose like hornets from hidden launch points, silent, low, hunting. One drone broke through the haze first. The operator didn't breathe or blink. He threaded the drone between smoke and steel. The lead vehicle jerked, sputtered, then died where it stood. The entire formation froze for one fatal second. And in war, 1 second is enough to bury an advance. Russian soldiers spilled out of the stalled armor, sprinting in panic, abandoning million-dollar machines as if they were burning torches. Engines roared unanswered. Metal groaned. Radios screamed for backup that couldn't reach them in time. The offense that looked unstoppable had just hit its first wall, and Ukraine was about to hit back harder. Russian armor crashed forward like a blunt fist, hurling smoke, steel, and noise across open ground. A tank punched a smokescreen to hide the convoy, its engines screaming as it rolled straight into Ukrainian firing lanes. Behind it, BMPs and support vehicles followed, believing momentum alone would break the line. But Ukraine wasn't waiting with rifles, it was waiting with drones. The first FPV ripped out of the fog like a wasp with a warhead. One clean strike into the lead vehicle, and the entire formation stuttered, tracks jammed, engines choked, and the convoy stalled in seconds. Russian infantry bailed from their vehicles, sprinting in every direction because they knew exactly what came next. Yes, artillery. Ukrainian guns opened up before the dust even settled. The disabled tanks became cages, and every round turned them hotter, louder, closer to catastrophic. Fire climbed into the armor, swallowed oxygen, and then a terrific blast left turrets buckling and vehicles split from the inside out. The offense was bleeding, burning, breaking, and this was only the beginning of the collapse. The artillery hadn't even cooled when Ukrainian air support arrived to finish what the drones started. Above the burning convoy, another operator locked onto the weakest point of a BMP, a vent no wider than a fist. He released a 5-kilogram charge with surgeon-level calm. The explosive punched through the armor, and the inside of the vehicle erupted like someone lit the air itself on fire. Ammo inside began cooking off, slow at first, then violently. The turret lifted, twisted, and blew apart as if the vehicle had swallowed a bomb from the inside out. Nearby, another FPV dropped low, stalking a tank trying to reverse out of the kill zone. Its crew shouted commands. The driver ground gears in panic, but the drone was already there, hugging the rear plate, hitting where armor was weakest. One hit, one wrong breath, and the tank folded. Fire turned it into a furnace. On another ridge, the operator barely spoke as he guided yet another drone toward a $45 million M3 air defense system Russia tried desperately to hide under trees and camo netting. It didn't matter. Coordinates were sent. Minutes later, a HIMARS rocket ripped into the site, and the hidden system disappeared in a burst that shook the forest. The burning BMPs were still collapsing when Ukrainian armor rolled into the fight, hunting. 2 Leopard tanks coldly and patiently sat behind a tree line. They had been watching the Russian advance turn into a pile of wreckage, and now it was their turn to carve up what was left. The first Russian tank crawled forward, unaware it was already dead. It clipped a line of anti-personnel mines, throwing up dirt and shrapnel, but before its crew even processed the hit, a Leopard round tore through its side like a hammer through wet plywood. A second shot followed, cleaner, harder, and the tank blew open in a roar that shook the grass flat. The Leopard changed positions like it was on rails. An APC tried to run. It couldn't get far. A flash, a hit, flames bursting through both hatches, and infantry scattered across the field like shadows breaking apart. Another Russian vehicle tried to hold a defensive line inside a settlement, thinking walls could save it. The Leopard drove straight toward it, firing high explosive rounds that folded the building room by room, each shot crushing the enemy inside until the structure was nothing but a collapsing shell. And can you guess what happened when two more Russian tanks tried to flank? Well, the Leopards tracked them across open ground, waited for range confirmation, and fired. One shot, two kills. A Russian assault that started with confidence now looked like a scrapyard on fire, and Ukraine was still not done pushing. The Leopards had turned the field into a graveyard, but across another sector, the battle moved toward the machines Russia trusted most, its invincible tanks. Ukrainian drone operators had been tracking a separate armored group pushing toward the lines, thinking distance and armor would keep them alive. A T-90M rolled forward, confident in its reactive armor and electronic warfare suite. The crew thought they knew every threat. Then, an FPV drone slipped under the smoke and went straight for the open hatch. One clean entry, and fire blasted through every opening of the turret, the driver's compartment, even the gun barrel. The tank erupted, as if the ammunition inside tried to escape in every direction at once. Another tank tried to survive by sealing every hatch and relying on its jammers. A second FPV circled above it, patiently, waiting for the smallest opening. The operator eased down, found the weak seam beneath the turret, and struck. Pressure ripped outward, blowing both hatches open in a geyser of fire. Seconds later, the tank turned into a fireball. Further down the line, a reinforced tank tried to hold its ground, with extra armor plates and chains welded under the hull. The Russians had thrown everything at the problem. It didn't matter. Another drone hovered, descended, and dropped a grenade straight through a tiny gap the crew thought was harmless. Smoke seeped out first, then flames, and then the entire vehicle went up like a bonfire in a steel drum. Tank after tank, each one claiming to be modern, upgraded, unstoppable, fell to drones costing less than a night's fuel. And as Ukrainian observers watched another armored wave fall apart, a simple truth settled over the battlefield. If one drone could do this, what would a swarm do? The Russian tanks were dying one after another, but the next scenes on the battlefield showed a different kind of armor entirely. Machines built not to explode with their crews trapped inside, but to keep them alive long enough to fight back. On a distant road, two Ukrainian Leopards moved in a column, unaware that a Russian shell was already screaming toward them. The impact looked catastrophic. Fire burst from the side of the tank, smoke rolled across the road. But inside, the crew remained calm. What the camera caught was protection. The Leopard's ammunition cooked off safely, venting outward the way Western engineers designed it. The turret kept rotating. Systems stayed alive. And seconds later, the entire crew climbed out, unhurt. Where Russian tanks become coffins the moment their ammo ignites, Western tanks become escape pods that refuse to let their crews die. Another Leopard was hit further down the line. Flames licked the armor, smoke poured out, but the hatches blasted open exactly as intended. Every soldier inside escaped. The tank burned, but no one inside was lost. Across another front, Ukrainian Abrams received coordinates for a fortified Russian position. The building looked solid from the outside. It didn't matter. The Abrams aimed once, then a second shot, and that was absolute demolition. Walls folded, floors collapsed, and the Russian stronghold disappeared in a cloud of dust and broken concrete. Seconds later, a Bradley rolled into the same kill zone. Its cannon was rattling non-stop, clearing the trenches and suppressing any surviving resistance. The coordination was brutal and precise. One vehicle would break the walls, the other would clear what the blast left behind. But the moment that stunned analysts around the world happened next. A Russian tank lunged out to hit the Bradley, trying to swing its turret before the infantry vehicle could react. It never got the chance. The Bradley's electronic warfare systems punched straight into the T-90M's targeting suite. The Russian tank went blind, then deaf, and then confused. Its turret spun uncontrollably. The driver panicked and slammed it into a tree. The duel ended without Bradley even breaking stride. Moments later, a Russian BTR spotted a Ukrainian Bradley and opened fire first. But Bradley didn't flinch. It returned fire with sharp, controlled bursts, advancing aggressively until the BTR's crew abandoned the vehicle and fled into the woods. And across another ridge, a Ukrainian drone found yet another T-90M hiding with its turret cracked open. The operator guided the FPV smoothly through the hatch and dropped a grenade inside. The explosion ripped the tank apart from within, and then came the mine strike. A Russian tank rolled forward, hit a buried charge, and turned into a fireball instantly. It stored explosive ammunition under the crew. When it ignited, the entire vehicle became a pressure cooker. As the battlefield burned, one truth became impossible to ignore. Russia can mass-produce tanks. It cannot mass-produce crews. And it cannot stop a warfare style that burns millions of dollars with a drone worth a few hundred. The battlefield wasn't quiet when the last tank burned. Ukrainian crews were already scanning for the next wave because everyone knew Russia would send one. The drones were still in the air. The Leopards still had rounds, and somewhere in the smoke, another armored column was forming. So here's the question only you can answer. If you were watching this unfold from the operator's screen, would you hold the drone or send it? Drop your answer in the comments, hit like so this reaches more people following the war, and subscribe if you want the next chapter.